Once you've been in Eurorack for a while, one of the problems you bump into are power cables. You just get one per module, it's limited to whatever size they give you. If you break one or lose one, then you have to go buy a new one, and that gets a little pricey considering it's just a little bit of cable and a couple of connectors. But it turns out it's not that hard to make your own, so I wanted to do this video just to go into it. So, things we're going to need. Some ribbon cable. I've got two different types here for the 10-pin and 16-pin versions. I've got the connectors that go on either side, 16-pin and 10-pin. I have a pair of scissors for cutting the cable. This is a crimping tool. You don't need to use the crimping tool. I've seen people using just a vise or vice grips, but I think this was $20, and you make back that in power cable savings pretty fast. And I like having just a power supply with shrouded headers around. I use that to test the cable at the end just to make sure I've got everything lined up right, because you don't want to put it on backwards and then plug it in. So let's start by making a 16-pin to 16-pin power cable. I've got a length of 16-strand cable here. You want to cut it as evenly across as you can manage. These little connectors, these IDC connectors, it stands for Insulation Displacement Connector. If you take a look, I don't know if it'll show, there's a little tiny triangle there. And that's the indicator for pin 1. Pin 1 is the red stripe. So you just sort of get them lined up like that. Now, just slide the cable through. You have to give it a bit of a wiggle here. There we go. Cool. Get it lined up straight. I give it just a little push so that the tines push in a little bit just to hold it in place while I get the connector or the crimper. Now, if you take a look, the crimper has these little indentations, these notches that fit with the little spot on the power cable. So you just slide it in to hold it in place, and then it's a gentle but firm push. There, you heard a click. Now, if you wanted to, you could just leave it at that. I like to trim a little bit of the excess off here. You could leave it just like this. But if you're like me, I sometimes pull the cables out just by holding onto the cable itself, and that can put a lot of strain on the top half of this connector. So there are these little, I don't know what they're called, I call them gates, but they're there for strain relief. What you can do is you take that cable, you roll it over backwards, and you take the strain reliever that fits just right in the top, and you press it down. Oh, not lined up. There we go. You press it down, click. And now when you tug on it, not all of the force is being applied directly to the connector and the top of the connector there. So that's one half. Grab another one here. We'll do the other side. Again, we want to make sure we line up. This is actually a good time to check that you got it right. So if you were to plug this into the shrouded header here, see, okay, it fits there. And you've got red stripe here, you know you've got it put in right. Come on. So we go to do the other side now. Same idea. Make sure you get the triangle and the red stripe lined up. Push it through just to hold it there. Grab the crimping tool or whatever you're going to use. Put it in. Easy pressure. There we go. Trim off the excess here. There we go. Roll it backwards. Grab one of the strain relief gates. Put it in place and snap. So there you go. There's a 16-pin to 16-pin power cable. So let's try a 16-pin to 10-pin. Now I've got this 14-strand cable, and I picked it up from 1979. I picked it up really early, and I don't need those extra strands since it's only a 10-pin cable we're going to be hooking, or a 10-pin connector we're going to be hooking up. But it's really easy. You can just peel it back, and you can cut off the strands. You get the piece that you want. There we go. Now we're going to use one of the 5-pin or 10-pin connectors that we've got here that fits this. And it works just the same. Get it lined up the same, the triangle and the red stripe. You wiggle it through. Just a little press. Crimper. And there we go. And it also has the strain relief, so you pull it backwards. There we go. And down over it and click. Okay. Now, we need the 16-pin side. And this is the only place where really there's a tricky part, because that's a 16-pin connector. We only have 10 strands, so it doesn't fit in nice and tight like the last one. It slides around in there. So what you need to do is just make sure it's pushed up nice and tight against what's in this case the right side. Just because you want to hold it nice and firm in there. And then when you get the crimper, the trick is, so the crimper, the pressure is all on the lower side here, or mostly on the lower side. So you want that pressure on the part where the cable actually is. So you just need to make sure that when it goes in, the cable's on the lower part, and it's the same thing. Go. Looks good. And trim off that excess. Yeah. And then same deal. Roll it backwards. Grab one of the strain relievers. Pop it in. Click. Check the cable. Yep. Red stripe to red stripe. Yep. So there it is. That's a little tiny one, but yeah, 16-pin to 10-pin, just like that. So I hope that's been helpful, and if it is, why not subscribe? Thanks.